Hello, my name's Maria and welcome to the MTGE Coffee Morning. Today we have with us Roger and Neil, the two mortgage gurus. So Roger, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I've been doing this for like 25 years, which is sort of quite a long time. So we wanted to design something which was effectively no strings, no bars, straightforward, plain talking mortgage advice. And that's what we do. We work with developers. We work with people who bought second-hand, people who are first-time buyers, just about anything in the marketplace which requires a form of lending. And we have a very good strapline that everybody is entitled to home ownership.
Okay, and Neil, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, as you can see, I'm not quite as old as Roger, so I've only been doing this job for about 12 years. So yeah, half the experience of the man there. But yeah, we, as Roger hit the nail on the head, we help people with all sorts of different mortgage needs. We do a lot of new build, we do a lot of second hand, remortgages, you name it. Kind of a no nonsense mortgage advisor, really, straight to the point. Help people to achieve their goal. Yeah, whether it be first time buyer or seasoned landlord, I guess.
And the very best thing is, you don't charge a fee.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, you've never charged a fee for your advice, and there are a lot of brokers out there that do charge. So, guys, we've got a quick fire round of questions for you, considering you call yourself the mortgage gurus. So, first question I have, I'm going to ask Neil. How much could I actually borrow in terms of a mortgage loan for a property?
Typically, in the current market, lenders are willing to lend around about 4.5 times salary. It is dependent on the amount of deposit you've got. Generally, the larger deposit, the higher they're willing to go. So if it's a help to buy scheme, for example, you're limited to 4.5 times your income, if that's for a joint or single application. If it's outside of the help to buy scheme and you've got a good deposit, you meet certain criteria, then it can be up to 5.5 times. But that's why we encourage people to speak to us, because everybody's different, and obviously we can tailor the advice to every individual's circumstances, basically.
So, question for you, Roger. What is the difference between a fixed rate mortgage and a variable rate mortgage?
Well, it's a very easy question. That's obviously because of my age, you've been nice to me. So I'll just saying that because Neil will be jealous. So with a fixed rate, it's actually the keys in the name. It's fixed, which means there is no variation for a set period, normally 2, 3 or 5 years. With a variable rate mortgage, your mortgage goes up and down as the base rate or the lender changes their rate. So one is very similar to renting, which is the fixed rate, which you know what your payments are. And a lot of first-time buyers take that option for safety, and indeed anybody actually buying a new property with a new commitment. Are you okay with that, Neil? Just checking.
That is fine with me. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Rog. Well done.
Of course, the gurus. Okay, so how can I fix an interest rate on a property if I take out a loan? What would be the way of doing that?
Neil, it's over to you, because you're the young guru.
How can you fix an interest rate? The lenders generally offer different periods of fixed term. So the lowest is usually 2 years. You can even fix up to 10 years with some lenders. But at the outset, I guess the period that you want to fix for, again, will be determined by your circumstances, and obviously what your future plans and goals are. So the way it usually works, a 2-year fix has got your lowest interest rates. The longer you fix for, the higher the rate becomes. You're paying for that extra stability of knowing where your payment is. But when you speak to us, the initial conversation obviously will determine the type of fixed rate that would suit both your budget and your circumstances going forward, basically.
That makes sense. Okay, and Roger, what are the estimated completion costs?
Oh gosh, well that's down to your solicitor really to an extent. So you've obviously got stamp duty, and there's so much press speculation about an extension. And this time tomorrow we'll probably be in a more informed position. Today is obviously Tuesday, tomorrow being Wednesday. So stamp duty is the biggest changer and the biggest commitment you have. You then got solicitors' costs, etc. Valuations are often paid for now by a lender, so that's a saving to you, so you don't have to pay. I would typically say around about sort of £3,000 to £4,000 for the average transaction, around about 350 to about 500,000 is really what it's going to cost in terms of fees, plus obviously stamp duty.
So just to conclude, what would be sort of the additional, I mean, obviously you can't put price on it, but what would be the additional costs involved that people tend to overlook?
Okay, so you've got solicitors' costs, which is perhaps the biggest one, which is about 800-900. You've got land registry fees and you've got local search fees, etc. But any good solicitor will actually give you a price from the outset, so you should know what it's going to cost you, what the budget's going to be. Unfortunately, a lot of people actually ask us whether you can add those fees to the loan. You can't. They are payable at various stages throughout the transaction. But as far as a lender, and actually applying for a mortgage, it will cost you nothing because most of the fees are actually added on completion. And as I said, the actual valuation fee is often free.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, Neil, what could delay completion on a mortgage, especially in COVID?
Well, hang on. That's a very unfair question because often Neil's pipeline's delayed.
Neil?
Fair point, though. Delays, anything can cause a delay. I mean, at the moment in COVID times, we've got the stamp duty deadline, which is currently the end of March. So it's kind of a bottleneck effect at the moment that we're seeing, where there's been a sudden surge in demand, which has caused an increase in applications. Solicitors are struggling, obviously, to meet those demands. I've had clients that have come back to me and said, well, some solicitors that they've approached have said that they won't be able to act for them for at least 4 months until they clear their current workload and things like that. So I think solicitors at the moment, obviously we do a lot of new builds. So in the new build world, there can be delays with the building. So believe it or not, as ridiculous as it sounds, builders can run out of things like bricks, particularly in these COVID times. And yeah, that is, again, that's a real world situation that I've heard recently. So lots of different factors, depending on whether, like I say, it's new build, second hand. It's second hand, obviously, the delays are generally with chains. So people selling something, well, people have often got to sell something in order to buy a new property. So that invariably involves chains of people, different house buying processes, and of course there could be any kind of hiccup along the line. A survey picks something up, and everything can fall apart. So yeah, it's there are lots of different reasons, but yeah, I guess they're the main ones.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. So moving on to the subject of Help to Buy, which is actually quite a big one. Roger, what would you say the main pros of Help to Buy are?
Well, it's actually really simple. Again, it's based on people's circumstances and situation. Of course, the new scheme is only open to first-time buyers, but the biggest advantage is it just requires a 5% deposit, and that's the biggest single motivator. So unless you've got rich parents or you've got an inheritance or you've actually managed to save money, it allows you to get onto the housing ladder quite quickly, and also you benefit from a lower interest rate as well for the initial period at the same time. So in my opinion, Help to Buy is a very, very powerful stepping stone, which everybody should consider. Okay,
so from what I understand is over a certain period of time, so you put down sort of 5% deposit on the property. Absolutely. So over a certain period of time, the interest starts to raise. At what period, Neil, does the interest rate start to raise?
So on Help to Buy, it's interest free for 5 years. So for the first 5 years, you're just paying your mortgage payment. From year 6 onwards, you'd start to pay interest on the government loan. So whether it be 20% or up to 20% outside London or up to 40% inside London, effectively you'd start to pay 1.75% on that percentage from year 6 onwards. So what a lot of people will try to do is during that 5-year period, try and either refinance to pay back some of the government loan. Equally, if you're buying your first place, you step on the ladder, a small flat, you might want to sell within that period and upsize to try and buy something else. And essentially then Help to Buy has done its job. It's got you on the ladder. You've built up your equity in your property. You then take that onto the next purchase, which obviously you can do hopefully without any government assistance.
So are there any conditions when it comes to Help to Buy? in terms of could you say sublet a room, or what are there any sort of restrictions?
Yeah, there are lots of limitations. The main one is you can't let the property out. You can't sublet a room. Obviously, Help to Buy is designed to help people get on the property ladder, achieve their goal of buying a property. It's not obviously to encourage people to, essentially become professional landlords or whatever. So yeah, the 21-23 scheme, which started December last year, is now restricted to first-time buyers only. Whereas previously you could have been a second-time buyer, third-time buyer, whatever. So it's first-time buyers only. And there are now regional price caps as well, depending on the area that you're purchasing.
Okay, and that's all available on your website. That information, it's mtge.uk, isn't it? So the other question that I was going to ask in terms of Help to Buy, how is the interest rate actually calculated?
The interest rate for the mortgage or Help to Buy?
Help to Buy.
Help to Buy, it's set at 1.75%, as mentioned, of the amount that you borrow from the government, which can increase with RPI each year.
And what does RPI stand for anybody that doesn't know?
It's the retail price index.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much. So, Roger, how easy is it actually to remortgage if you've taken a loan from the government for the Help to Buy scheme?
I guess there's two ways of looking at it. Something known as staircasing, which is the slang in the industry for actually buying chunks of the property, much the same as shared ownership, where you buy 5, 10 or 15% chunks at various times. I think it's actually 10% as the minimum chunk now. It has subsequently changed. Or you can actually refinance as well. You have to get valuations carried out, and you have to go via the government agency Target, who will actually help and assist. So it's relatively straightforward and it's relatively easy. But it's something, it's going to get you onto the housing ladder, which is a critical component of this whole transaction.
Okay, guys, are you ready for a quick fire round? It's for the pros and cons of Help to Buy. Roger, you're on pros. Neil, I'm sorry this week. You're on cons. Ready?
So,
Pro, 1, go.
Full deposit.
Con.
Restricted to new build only.
Pro.
Cheaper interest rate.
Con.
When you sell the property, the government will share any appreciation in the value of the property.
Pro.
And likewise, if the property drops, it's beneficial as well because the government takes a stake in that as well.
Con.
Con.
You might lose this one.
I love Help to Buy. I'm too pro Help to Buy to think of cons.
Me too. Come on, it's been like
yeah, come on. You had the easier.
Come on, Lenny.
Hey, next time will be easier for you, I promise, Neil.
Yeah, thank you. Didn't make it easy that time.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, guys. I know you're really, really busy, and I think one of the best things about you is you never, ever charge for your advice, which is amazing. And just to remind everyone, the website is mtge.uk, and we're on all social media platforms. Thank you.
Cheers.